So it's the early part of May and it's very much crunch time. We've got things coming out of the greenhouse. We've got seeds that we're planting and trying to stagger those plantings and keep it all hardened off and happy in the soil. Now there's growth from the weeds, and so it's really a lot going on. It's all hands on deck, but I want to take you through and show you where the garden sits right now and talk about some of the things that we're doing differently. So starting at the top of the hill as you come through the gate, we have our permanent strawberry and asparagus pass. We've already harvested some of that asparagus and it was really tasty, but the strawberries are starting to come in right now. So we've gotten a few of those. You can see like the ripening of the strawberries down here. Let me find a big one that I can munch on and make y'all feel jealous. Oh, there's a tasty one. Look at that. So we've got the strawberries going. Oh no, whatever. So we got the strawberries going. And then we've also got the asparagus in here that I talked about. But something that I'm looking at right now, and I see for the first time, is this comfrey plant growing. And now that I just saw it and mentioned it, I don't know where it went, but it'll pop out. There it is, right in front of me. Look, this is comfrey. And this is a really good dynamic accumulator. We can plant it, particularly around like fruit trees and stuff, and mulch it. It grows really big and loves to get cut back. And then it adds organic matter and fertilization. It brings a lot of nutrients to the root mass, and so when we chop it, and then it'll let it back out for the plants that we do want to grow. So we've got a lot of this like dog fennel growing. This is all organic material from last year, but the strawberries are doing really well. So, and where does all that come from? We really like to take like a wildflower mix and just kind of like throw it out over the garden, and then whatever grows, it was meant to be there, and then we can benefit from it. We don't need these long straight rows of like monocrop agriculture, which we do have like some of that, but we'll talk more about how we did that. But a great example of that throwing out of stuff is this oregano on the hillside. So we'll grow our herbs and stuff that we might want to use in the kitchen. You can smell it. Also in this mix of like cover crop. Look, and if you look, now that you know what it looks like, it's all along this row. Mixed in with that, this is vetch. It's a dynamic plant that brings nitrogen to the things and also creates a lot. It fixes nitrogen and also brings a lot of like organic matter. Also in here, we have like some bulb flowers starting to grow, which is cool. You can see these popping up. These come back year after year and give us some beautiful flowers for the house or for sale. And then over here, we've got more of this wildflower mix. Some zinnias coming up. And I think that looks really pretty. But also in that, we see like, this is the flower of that vetch, which I think is worth mentioning. But there's wheat, there's all sorts of stuff growing in here, just creating biomass that we can chop down year after year. But it also stabilizes and holds this terrace. So we want our pathways to be equal in length of the distance of this terrace, but this helps keep that erosion to a minimum. Now we're down here on the next terrace, and this terrace last year, we didn't do anything. So we're having a little bit of a fallow field response, which is a way to bring nutrients back to the area without growing cover crops and things. If the earth rests and we don't plant anything, we'll get a better crop the next year. We also brought in a bunch of compost, but we're using the same principle that we've always had. So we've sized these beds based on our equipment, and so we can mow the pathways till the grow beds, and then we have a pathway, and this helps control erosion. It gives us a lot of green material that we can chop and drop in the center and then use to mulch our plants. We did tomatoes here last year. Tomatoes were over there, peppers were here, so we wanted to switch that up and make sure that we're not planting the same plant over and over and over. If you remember last year, the bed behind you had artichokes in it, and it also had some broccoli. So we didn't do that again, and we planted some broccoli down here. I guess we'll come back up to this, but now that we're talking about broccoli, I'll show you one of the broccoli plantings that we've done. So we're talking about long rows, and here's one that we moved, broccoli that we started in the greenhouse outside. This is a cold weather crop, or it's a little bit more cold tolerant, and we want to get it out first. One of the problems that we've had here is that the temperatures fluctuate so much that we have had a lot of our broccoli just like start bolting. So last year was the first year that we had like really good broccoli harvest, and we're hoping for that again. Right next to it, we have this hill of potatoes. We planted some potatoes, which we did down in the bottom last year. We did about like sweet potatoes, but unfortunately they got taken like by weeds because we didn't have as good of a management down there. A lot of this area, and I've talked about that before in other videos, the closer we get to the greenhouse, that's the stuff that we manage more intensely. A lot of the other stuff, we're just kind of like growing organic matter and hoping to build that soil profile over time. I showed you the garlic and the shallots here that we planted in the fall, but there's broccoli down here going as well. So notice I'm talking about like cold weather crops, and we're planting with the temperatures mainly. We don't want to put out the tomatoes, squash, cucumbers, corn. All these things need to wait a little bit more, but we're now at the time where they can start coming out. The ground temperatures have accumulated. So we've got our broccoli, and then we're doing something different. This is a Malabar spinach. We've got some regular Bloomsdale spinach that we planted from seed in one of those beds up there, but this is a vining spinach. So just like tomato plants that you train up through a trellis, you can do that with these, or you can like string them out over the bed and let them grow like vine. But this leafy material, oh, that one we just planted yesterday. I probably shouldn't have pulled that up. So get some roots growing in there, buddy. But yeah, you can see the green, leafy spinach is just like what you would get from a spinach head. So that's pretty cool. This is new for us. One of the things that we really like to grow, because we eat a lot of it, is red and white onions. So we started these from sets, which are just like little bulbs that you buy. We've done videos about planting them before, but we put them into the ground, and then over time, these will become the large onions that you want to eat. Another plant similar to onions is the garlic that we planted in the fall. This stuff will be ready, maybe another month or two, but it's looking really good. We took some compost, threw it back on top, and they were getting a little bit yellowing. And that might have been the drought that we're experiencing in Southwest Virginia. But they look, maybe that was the rain. The past couple of days we've had some rain too. But they look a whole lot better, and they're huge. It's very exciting to see them grow. Part of the fun of gardening is like planting something and then watching it every day and taking mental note and then seeing what happens and then enjoying the harvest. I think it taps into like the real primal roots of everything. But the garlic looks really great, and we like it because it lasts a long time, and it's just so great. It grows great in pretty much every dish that we're cooking has some garlic in it. I feel like that, and onions too. But there are some diets that are restrictive of that. But we want to have a lot of it, and it lasts a long time. We'll just hang it up and dry it in the pantry or in the basement, and then we'll use that throughout the year. So we're really stoked on the garlic this year. That was a big upgrade for us, doing way more garlic than we did in past years. So I know I kind of blew past this as we were going down to look at the other broccoli planting, but we're in like second or third terrace, and right next to the onions. We planted some lettuce from seed. I'm not super happy with the way that this came out, and that's because we've had like a lot of weed pressure from other things. But you can see like the lettuce starting to grow inside all of this like weeds. Now I've seen some people do black plastic to germinate the seeds and then burn them, and then to get like a sterile seed bed that way. But we just went ahead and threw the lettuce out here. It'll go, but it just doesn't look as appealing as I want it to. But so that's kind of exciting. It's having lettuce that we can start from seed, in addition to the lettuce in the greenhouse. But I would love to have this bed as all like microgreens and stuff. Will we get it there this year? Maybe not, but there's always another opportunity to plant lettuce and things later after, the heat of the summer. People are always wondering, like, how do you keep track of the plants? One of the ways is that we've built a relationship with these plants and we know what they look like. But the other one is that we have a wood shop and we have a lot of cutoffs. So we just write the name on it. Some of them we write the date as well. Up here I have a Bloomsdale spinach that I wrote the date of the first planting on. That you could buy tags, stick them in the ground, but I really find that Sharpie marker and a piece of wood and some furniture staples go a long way to letting you know where the plants are. So if you look down the row, you can see where those things, the variety changes. A really cool thing that we're working on is some woven willow live fencing. And we planted this last year. You can see that some are doing a lot better than others. I don't know what made that happen, but it seems like some of these just didn't really work out. But you can see vigor of these ones. And I'm not sad about the ones that didn't work out, because as we prune these, we'll just be able to stick them into the ground and like fill out this fence line. We want to do some more of these down at the house as well, but these willow trees are great for basket weaving. They're great for living fences. They're great for some architecture. We've got a dome. You can see maybe off in the distance there's some willow trees growing that we're going to weave together into like cool pergola hangout spot over there in the garden. But I think it's worth mentioning these willow trees, and I think they're really cool and I like them. Behind this berm, you see some beds grown up, and that's the next thing that's happening in the evolution of this garden as temperatures get warmer. We're gonna move our tomatoes, we're gonna have some squash, corn a little bit further down, but these hotter weather plants, that's the next phase. We've got a lot of cool weather crops out. Now it's time for the summer crops to start making their way into the garden because the temperatures are right. Not only the air temperatures, worried about frost, but the ground temperatures too. So that's the next step. Over the next couple weeks, we'll be putting those out in like staggered varieties so that all of our harvest doesn't come due at one time and we can kind of have a perpetual harvest. And then also we're going to do, you know, things like white clover path again and make sure that we have that like companion planting and integrated farming solutions in how that we plan our garden so that it's less work overall on us. We're using the BCS mower to mow the pathways, chopping and dropping, adding that material back to mulch and keep the weed pressure down. And so if you want to learn more about this stuff, we've got our spring garden prep guide, we've got free plans for chicken coops, we've got a lot of free resources that you should take advantage of if you're serious about building a homestead for yourself and your family.